If you're feeling a little down in the dumps about your sewing, maybe you're looking at your last make and it's just not as you wanted it to turn out and you're thinking, maybe I'm just not cut out for this sewing thing. Maybe you're in that level of absolute frustration where you've unpicked something 24,000 times and at this point it's basically just a frayed up mess that's kind of, you're thinking, unsalvageable at this point. I hear you. I know the pain, absolutely, because I have been there myself so many times. But I promise you, sewing is just a learned skill and anyone can learn to sew. Yes, that means you included. All it takes is just the 3 Ps. If you are feeling a little bit down in the dumps about your sewing, this video is a little bit of a pick-me-up because what are the 3 Ps exactly? The 3 Ps: patience, practice, and persistence. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. But I think the first thing that I want to talk about here is that through my own 20 plus years sewing journey, all the people that have come in and out of my life of sewing, not sewing, trying to sew, succeeded at sewing, through to me creating my online school at Vintage Sewing School, where I have literally seen thousands of people's sewing journeys and helped them through, and here on YouTube, seeing through the comments in our community here and seeing what's the difference between the people that succeed and, you know, make the clothes that they dream of, that they hit their sewing goals, so to say, that they can make all this wonderful stuff that they set out to do, and the people that don't end up doing any of that. There's only one thing. The one reason why people don't is because they give up. That's it. That is really it. And that's where the 3 Ps come into it. Now, I promise with all my heart, sewing is just a set of skills that anyone can learn. Now, we're all born with different natural dispositions to the ability to look at steps in logical order, the ability to be quite dexterous and flexible with our fingers and hands, maybe the ability for hand-eye coordination and, you know, moving things through the machine, the ability to touch and feel fabric and know that, to use pins, to different levels all come naturally and not naturally as much, but all the things that we do in sewing, the sewing machine, the straight lines, the curves, the unpicking, the delicate stitches, the choosing the right fabric, the, like, all of the things here are just little skills that are all put together to be a garment. And all of these skills you can learn. It just takes like doing it over and over and over again, and you will get better. As I said, there's only one reason why people that, you know, don't end up getting there is because they give up. If you just keep going, you're going to get there. I promise you. I know it's so, and you are not that person. I know. That's why you're watching this video, is because you're not going to just give up and not get it. Sewing is for you. It just takes the 3 Ps. Practice is the first one. Oh my goodness, practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice makes nearly perfect, because there is no perfect. But it's only through practicing these skills. I often like to say, you know, to my students, particularly in Vintage Sewing School, when you're learning and going through all these courses and learning all this stuff about sewing, and I say, okay, that's wonderful, but slow down a little minute on the theory, so to say, because it's time for practice. Because if you read a book on how to swim, you've read that book cover to cover, know every single word, every single page, can you go then jump in the water? And do you know how to swim? Of course not. Because when you get in there and do it, you're like flailing around and trying to remember all the stuff that you memorized, but you need to put it into practice. And that is exactly what we do in sewing. And it just takes practice to put into practice even the things we learn and see, and that you just get better by doing it over and over and over again. Patience. Oh my goodness, patience. You need to be patient with not only the process, and that it takes time, but yourself. Be patient with yourself. Mistakes are part of the process. I don't think there is one project that I have not ever used my seam ripper on. Like, it just, that is the way it goes. It just takes a lot of patience to just be patient, mostly with yourself, and don't judge yourself on mistakes that happen or think that you should know better, because I can tell you, the mistakes that, you know what, I'll get to those mistakes I've made in a minute because the next one is persistence. And that's what I said. The only reason people don't get to the end sewing goals that I've seen has just because they've literally just given up. That's it. So if you don't give up, you just keep going, you will get there. I promise you, you will absolutely get there because you can learn to sew. I said mistakes are part of the process. Oh my goodness. Talk about mistakes. I've made them all. Every single silly, ridiculous, utter nonsense mistake you can think of whilst trying to make clothes, I have done it more than once. So many times, all the time. I still make them now. It happens. That's never going to go away. So don't feel bad about when those happen. Absolutely. I have made the worst fabric choices ever. Stretchy velvet with sequins over it for one of my first projects that I ever make in an A-line skirt that I don't know how to pick a size even. It was so terrible, so terrible. I can't even begin to tell you how terrible that garment turned out, but you know what? I kept going. I didn't know what needles were. I didn't know the interfacing. Oh my goodness, I made so many mistakes. It was awful. I've unpicked things to the point where they've just basically disintegrated and are completely unsalvageable, giant holes. I've snipped holes into garments, mid-shoulder something, you're just accidentally cutting things and you snip a hole and you think, well, that's that garment gone, isn't it? Or that's how you learn mending from there, right? To fix the hole that you've snipped into it there. Or at the overlocker, oh my goodness, and you've overlocking and all of a sudden you realize that you've cut off a little other section. Yep, done that. I couldn't even count. Couldn't even, definitely need more fingers and toes. Couldn't even count how many times that has happened to me over the years. Do you know how now I can sew a lap zip with just a couple of pins in 5 minutes and it look amazing every time, something I'm really happy with? That only happens because I've literally sewn many, many hundreds of lap zips over my 20 years. It's just taken that much practice to get to that point. The first ones I did, oh my goodness, I'm pretty sure they didn't function as a zip because I've sewn over the zipper teeth and it didn't work, unpicked it, probably picked a hole in it, terrible. But it just, 20 years, then doesn't even take 20 years. I got very good at doing zips. Didn't take that long to get, functioning zips, but it just practice and practice and practice and, you get there. And that's how I got better at zips, for example. And oh my gosh, sizings. Oh, sizings. That really just takes persistence. Learning and all the things that I have done. I've made garments that are too small, too big, the top too small, the bottom too big, too short. Things that just my toile was different than my actual garment. And why? Right? We all make all these mistakes. It is part of the process. But now I get to teach people. I'm someone who made all these mistakes is now, not only worked in bridal couture, making one-off garments that are worth many thousands of dollars each, and through my own fashion label where I had my vintage reproduction label, and it was the quality of those was very, very well known to be absolute utmost, and doing alterations on vintage restorations. If you make a mistake on those vintage garments, there is no going back, right? And now I get to teach thousands of people vintage sewing school over the time that I've been running it, in that the whole of all of my learning, all of my mistakes and everything in there. And I just mostly want to point out all those silly mistakes that I've made and to where I am now, and know that you're not alone. You're definitely, everyone has these moments. I've thrown garments across the room into the trash and never picked them out again. That's happened. That has totally happened. And I just want to let you know that even if you're feeling like sewing is not for you and you may be in one of those really low points, that we all go through those points and we all feel that way from time to time. And if you keep it up, just practice, patience. Mostly give yourself patience. It takes time. It just does. And persistence is to just keep going, even through those hard points where it seems like it's just never-ending mistakes. Persistence through that. I promise you, you will learn and you will get there. As long as you don't give up, you will learn to sew great clothes that fit and just the clothes that you want to make yourself in, that are in your mind. You will get there, I absolutely promise you. Because it always helps to know that you're not alone, right? That the mistakes are part of the process and you can do it. I really, really want to hear from you, my wonderful community that I am so grateful to have here. I can't thank you enough for always being here and for each other. And this is where you come in. I want you to leave a comment down below of a really, let's laugh at our funny moments here, on a moment where you just thought that like there was no light at the end of the tunnel, that some thing that was going on that was like, I'm going to give up sewing moment type thing, but you didn't. Because you got through it. And please tell us about that moment, because it's all fun and games to laugh at now, at like I just did with the so many mistakes that go on and on and on. I wish I had, a camera and YouTube maybe way back when I was learning. It would be quite interesting to be able to have filmed all of those mistakes throughout the years. But leave your comments below, because it really does help to know that we're not the only ones. Someone might just need to read that comment today, just so they can read it and think, oh, thank goodness I'm not the only one that happens to. And it feels so much nicer to know you're not the only one that makes all these things, and that with the 3 Ps, remember, you will get to the end and there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because I want to see you sewing the clothes that you dream of. That is why I have this whole channel and what I'm here for. So I cannot wait to read your comments down below for a little bit of fun. And I really do hope that it's given you the motivation, the realization that you can, and don't give up, because that's the only reason why people don't make it. But that is not you. Until next time, my dear sewing friends, happy sewing. Bye.